Looks like it started, Michelle.
Okay, sorry.
You're good.
I wear too many hats. I was answering a question about a school function. Okay. Alrighty. So 7A about the chiropractic license application requirements.
Yeah, and if my memory serves, we brought this for the board to review due to the issue or clarification maybe that's needed. If someone is applying for initial licensure, they may have been licensed prior by the board and either lapsed in their license or something happened, and they may be practicing without a license before or during their application. And so it's been an interesting situation recently that this has kind of come to our purview. And so it's just a matter of clarifying. I think that's, Mackenzie, am I remembering that? Is that part of this conversation?
Yeah, this one actually was brought forward based on a conversation in exec last board meeting. So I don't really remember a ton of it because that's not usually my purview.
Okay. Yeah,
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the question is whether if a situation arises where there's questions with regard to actions of the applicant while they're applying, does the board have explicit discretion to hold on processing that license or not? And just really a clarification of this rule. So Mackenzie, if you want to pull it up.
Was there a specific section you were thinking about?
Not necessarily. I haven't looked at it close enough to.
Okay, that's okay. I just was curious. And I have us in PDF because I didn't know if we were going to make any changes. So if we do, then I can always shift to a Word document.
It looks like maybe it could go under number 12, where it says the board may reject applications for good cause, including evidence of unprofessional conduct.
Yeah. And that's where we've had, I mean, that's what we've cited in these cases. But there's been times when, anyway, so I don't know if we want to clarify or bring more information into number 12 or just leave it as is. And Lori, would this rejection under good cause be the same as putting the application on hold until those unprofessional conduct pieces were investigated? Is that the same
the
thing?
statute, the statute doesn't really address when someone applies and they have stuff going on that the board has discretion to hold applications. Once that, and this is a constant battle with some clients. The general theory is when the application is complete, the board either has to admit it or deny it. So if you consider someone to have an incomplete application, technically you don't have to admit or deny it, but they could come back and say they were just slow walking my application, denying me my due process. They wouldn't deny it, and then you'd be in a pickle. So at some point, you guys have to have a policy or process that says the application's complete, and then the board makes a decision. Do they want to grant a license or deny it or grant it with stipulations or whatever? Does that answer your question?
So I don't know. So if it's mid-process,
right,
we know that there's unprofessional conduct happening. We're looking into the unprofessional conduct, but the application still, like a background check isn't done or they haven't submitted their test exams.
right.
That's still not a complete application.
Correct.
So once this person could do all sorts of wrongdoing outside of their application process, still have a viable application when it's completed.
Correct.
And then at that step, it could come to the board and say, okay, this is the complete application. However, we're also investigating
Correct.
and the board can deny.
Correct. The board can refuse to grant the license based on information they gained in the licensure application and subsequent investigation. What, like
if it-
massage board, they grant licenses and then they go back in and discipline them because it's too confusing for them to like hold up licenses forever. And I mean, they have 8,000 licensees. So, I mean, it's a policy decision on how you guys want to handle it and how you've handled, I don't know how you've handled it in the past. I can't think of a situation where we've had this issue specifically, but maybe we have.
We've had 2 recent cases that we've dealt with this.
Okay.
And the board has denied their licensure.
Okay.
And so, I mean, my feeling, and I've always thought the massage board kind of policy around that was odd to me, was why
Yeah.
would you, if you know that you have this ongoing unprofessional conduct by this person, and yet they're applying it in good faith applying, why would you grant the license if you know there's an it's a strange.
It's talking out of both sides of your mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Because then they can, what ends up happening on our receiving end of folks who are in different states, they'll say, oh yeah, I have an active license from a different state. Wyoming granted my license. They've
Right.
had the license granted. They may be in process of being disciplined, but they're not going to report on that. And so then we
Right.
say, oh, okay, well, Wyoming, granted.
right. I mean, dental board has had this issue a lot where licensees apply and they come from 4 different states and they either diminish or lie on their application. And then they run a
Mhm.
background check and they're like, holy crap, there's all this stuff they're lying about. So that basic license application turns into an investigation, which results in a denial.
Mhm.
And so it morphs into an investigation based on the fact of how they've answered the application questions.
Yeah. So I guess the question for you, Lori, is does 12 cover all that process? I mean, does it, or do we need to clarify, make any other steps in number 12?
I mean, that kind of parrots the APA because the APA says the board can deny an application and your regular statute under 684 says that you can deny an application on specific grounds. So it's vague enough. I don't know if you want it to be more specific or not. None of my boards have rules or laws on the specificity of when an application is valid and when it's, none of it is down to
Okay.
that like level of detail.
Okay. Yeah, my only thought is if we get it more narrow, then it's going to pigeonhole us into those situations that we don't really want to be in. My only concern about how 12 is written right now is that we don't reject applications, we deny them. And there may be a change in terminology there that I'm not aware of, but rejection is not a thing.
Your statute says refuse to grant a license, which I would coin is denial.
Yeah.
It doesn't use reject.
Right.
Yeah.
What if we cross-referenced the unprofessional conduct rule and I don't know, like if it would be worth doing like Doctor's Title Act or like one of those rules, if we cross-reference those and said like which may include.
Yeah, which may include but not limited to, and then cite a bunch of OARs and rules about things that we don't like.
Well, the only kind of downside to that, because we have, if you remember, we have the sexual unprofessional conduct rule, then we have the
Right.
general unprofessional conduct rule, and then we have other, the CA rules that mirror those. And I would be concerned that if we miss the citation, then
Yeah, you're excluding it.
yeah, and just leaving it as is, you're wrapping up all of those into unprofessional conduct here.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So So I guess I would just propose to change, if the board really the question before the board is, do you want to go into rulemaking about this? So that's the first question. And if you do, if you want to change any of the language, and if so, if reject should be changed to denied, or if you want to change the language at all, but that can be handled at a later date.
I would suggest that we go into rulemaking to make 12 sound more like the ORS.
Was that a motion?
That is my motion.
I'll second.
I'll second that.
Oh,
Oh, Micah beat you to it.
Quick on the draw.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Then we will take a vote. Seth,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Corey,
Aye. Sorry.
that's okay. Micah,
aye.
and I for myself, motion carries.
Great, thank you.
Just for clarification, you're planning to enter rulemaking next time around.
Oh, for
And you're
July.
looking, yeah, and you're looking at section 12,
Right.
and you're wanting it to mirror the statute. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and then let me. When we say mirror the statute, are we looking to just change the word reject, or are we going to change more of that sentence?
I think just the word reject.
Okay. The reason I asked that, and I was trying to look it up feverishly and then I wasn't fast enough, is I think with a word change, we can just do a minor correction. So I'm not 100% sure. It'd take me a minute to figure that out, and we can come back around to it if you want me to look into it, Cass, but
I think there's enough change in context that we'll have to go through rulemaking.
okay.
Yeah,
Is that your preference, even if we
Yeah.
can do minor? Okay.
I would
All right.
rather, yep.
Okay.
All right. Okay. 9:45. Animal chiropractic or weight?
So what do we have? Sorry, I'm just looking at our agendas here. Ready. We can actually get through animal chiropractic, I think, between now and in the next 15 minutes.
Okay. All righty. Then let's do that.
So I believe in your information, we have, yes, Oklahoma. I also, just yesterday, FCLB sent me, let me look. Where did I file it is the question. I think it was from, here it is. Oh. Anyway, I got another state's versions. It's not much different than Oklahoma's, and so we can go off of Oklahoma's model if we wanted to have an actual rule on animal chiropractic. Right now, we have a statute essentially saying, chiropractors can do animal chiropractic so long as you have a written referral by a veterinarian, by a licensed vet in the state. And we've had, for some reason, we have trends with our cases, and for some reason we have a lot of animal chiropractic coming up recently. And so the question before the board is, do we want to actually have a specific rule with regard to animal chiropractic?
Can you break that down in lay terms as to if we're going to create a rule, is this surrounding allowing chiropractic care around non-human vertebrates, or
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's just to provide more guidance around what that means. So if people call us and say, this person is doing, chiropractic to my dog, I don't really know if they're a chiropractor or if they're a veterinarian, and how does this work? And oftentimes it's in the equine business. So horses, there's a lot of folks doing chiropractic work on horses that aren't necessarily licensed or, frankly, have much of business doing that.
I think we should call it the what did you say, Mackenzie? The non-human vertebrae? I like that rule.
Yeah.
Covers all of it. Yeah.
I do agree with this. So would I say I'd motion to create a rule? Or would that be through someone else?
Yeah. So Micah, if you wanted to move to enter rulemaking to create a new rule on animal chiropractic, then that could be your motion for sure.
I would like to motion to define animal chiropractic care. And that's, am I understanding that correctly?
Well, actually, defining and is entering rulemaking are two different things.
Okay.
So if you want to enter rulemaking to create a new rule, then that could be your motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do.
So actually the terminology around that, if you hear someone that you agree to what they're saying, you just say, so moved. And then that will get us there.
So
Yeah.
I'll second that.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, we will vote. Seth?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Corey?
Aye.
Micah?
Aye.
And I for myself, motion carries.
So my question to you, and probably for Mackenzie, is: are we doing a new rule that mirrors or Oklahoma's rule, or do you want us to create something? I mean, we can create something that's more Oregon focused, but I think their rule is pretty much a really good basis to go off of.
I agree. I thought that we would just go off of the Oklahoma Chiropractic Practice Act.
Okay.
I think when we go in and do it, it would basically be the same thing unless we wanted to add a little extra flair for Oregon, but
Well, there's some of those parts in there. I don't know about like they list that vertebral subluxation complex. I don't think we have that mentioned anywhere in any of our literature, documentation, anything.
Yeah, I was going to edit it to just bring Oregon specific
Yeah.
modality terminology to it. I mean, you could even start it with diagnostic and treatment, and then animal chiropractic diagnosis and treatment shall not be construed to allow. I mean, that could just be where it starts.
Yeah, I don't want to open a can of worms of throwing in something vertebral subluxation and then we get letters.
For the filing of this, because we have to notice the public, can you guys define what chapter you'd like this to be in our rules for my edification?
That's a good question. Let me pull it up.
And
I
like
did
a
want-
preferred, sorry, before you go, Karen, and like a preferred number for the rule too would be helpful. Go ahead, Karen.
Just as something else we might need to change the wording on, because they've got it at accredited chiropractic college, and to my understanding, I think the only one that offers it maybe is Parker, and so I think other animal chiropractic programs are not necessarily through a chiropractic college, like they might be through a vet school. So I don't know, that may be just something to look into when we write it for
Mhm.
Oregon.
It should be in Division 10.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at, Lori, too. So it should be, 811-010, and then where in Division 10.
You don't really have an area where the scope is kind of defined, so that's where I would put it.
Or actually maybe under 15 with consumer protection.
That's what I was thinking, maybe like just after the obstetrics, minor surgery and proctology.
Yeah, I like that.
Like if 31 or 35 is available or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 0030, 31 or 0035?
Out of 15, 015, 0035 or 0040.
Yep.
I've heard 4 different numbers. Sorry. I heard 0031 as the option, 0035, and then now 0041. Is that right?
No, whatever. I was just making a note that it's in chapter 15, not chapter 10.
Yeah, no, I totally understand.
So
It's
whatever
the
whatever number, Mackenzie, between 30 and 45.
excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody good? Okay. All right. So number 8, reappointment for Dr. Warren on the PRC committee.
And that's actually going to be talked about in exec first, and then we'll come back to that.
Okay. Sounds good. What time is it? 9:53. Should we move on to 9, or what do you want? What do we have time for?
We only have about half an hour or so until our interview. So why don't we just prep for the interview?
Sounds good.
Go into exec.
All right, so we'll move over into that specific interview room, not the executive session room. All right, we'll see you all there.
Thanks, everybody.